Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre.
Welcome to Auto Mundial, the show with the latest news and reviews from the world of cars.
This week we're taking a look at the all-new Renault Espace. No longer an MPV, can it cut it against a flurry of family SUVs?
We also have Mercedes' latest EV and two fast estate cars from VW and Mini.
Plus a posh 4x4 from Genesis and the smallest car Lexus has ever built. That's all coming up, but first, the news.
Aston Martin has signed a deal with American electric car maker Lucid, giving the historic British brand access to Lucid's current and future battery technology. As part of Aston's shift towards electrification, Lucid will supply components that will be, according to Aston Martin, at the centre of its new in-house battery electric vehicle platform. Aston has dabbled with EVs before, with the Rapide E prototype, but its first electric production car is due for release in 2025. 2026, it plans to have electrified versions of all its models, and a fully electrified lineup of cars by 2030.
In the past few years, we've seen numerous old car names reborn as SUVs. First there was the Ford Puma, then the Mitsubishi Eclipse, and later this year the Fiat 600 will be revised as a crossover. Now it's the turn of the Renault Espace. The original MPV, famed for its combination of unrivaled practicality and quirky French design flair, is now a 4x4. So is this a new lease of life the Espace needed? Or should Renault have left the Espace as the cult favourite people carrier it once was? Well, for starters, the third row of seats is a no-cost option, so it can also be a 5-seat SUV with a massive boot. It's essentially an elongated Austral, another of Renault's SUVs. The Espace has a longer rear overhang, but otherwise not too much has changed. It's shorter than the outgoing Espace, but Renault reckons there's more interior space, meaning the middle row can recline for a more luxurious passenger experience. The interior design is again largely the same as the Australs, so you get a pair of big screens as standard, as well as an optional heads-up display and 48 colour ambient lighting. Powering the new Espace is a 1.2-litre petrol engine hooked up to a 2 kWh battery and 2 electric motors. Combined power is an adequate 197 brake horsepower, and it is drivable for short distances as an EV. Sadly, Renault isn't currently planning on bringing the Espace to the UK, and also marks the end of the French brand's long line of MPVs.
For years now, the luxury SUV class has been dominated by the usual suspects: Land Rover, BMW, Mercedes. We generally know what to expect from them when a new 4x4 model is launched. But now they have some new competition in the form of this, the Genesis GV80. As with other new models we've seen from Hyundai's luxury sub-brand, the GV80 certainly looks the part. The Bentley-esque Wind badge might not have the pedigree of some of its European rivals, but it looks right at home among the school-run queues of X5s and Discoveries. But can a Genesis really be mentioned in the same breath as the class favourite Land Rover? Well, take a step inside and we can't see why not. It's all level-lined and fantastically high quality. The switchgear is knurled as you get in a Bentley, while the widescreen infotainment system looks as crisp and up-to-date as anything from Europe. There are plenty of buttons too, so you don't have to worry about finding the right menu on the touchscreen to alter your aircon. There's a huge kit list too, including self-parking and a posh sound system, but be warned, there's a £15,000 price gulf between the 60 grand entry-level car and the top-spec model, so choose carefully. It's available with either 5 or 7 seats, although the third row isn't quite as spacious as the Land Rover Discoveries. Under the bonnet you get a choice of 2 engines, a 2.5 litre petrol and a 3 litre diesel. The petrol motor produces 300 brake horsepower, getting the GV80 from 0 to 62 in 7.7 seconds. It isn't rapid, but this is a 2.2 tonne SUV. The diesel is slightly heavier again, but despite its 25 bhp power disadvantage, it'll hit 62 0.2 seconds quicker thanks to a healthy extra dollop of torque. The diesel is definitely the one to go for, especially with its noise-cancelling tech, meaning you don't need to worry about the extra noise, while its 143 mph top speed is plenty. But how does it stack up against our favourite 7-seat premium SUV, the Land Rover Discovery?
Fresh off the back of a recent facelift, the Disco still is not winning any beauty contests, but what it lacks in elegance and indeed symmetry, it makes up for with its ability and practicality. The styling changes are very subtle, and sadly for some, the awkward-looking off-centre rear number plate remains unchanged, with the repositioned Discovery badging doing little to divert the eye. The Discovery's interior was already one of our favourites in this class, but now it is even better, with Land Rover's new Pivi Pro infotainment system on a bigger 11-inch screen and a few styling tweaks here and there, including some new controls for the heating and aircon. The Pivi Pro system is both larger and brighter than the old one and easier to use. The rest of the cabin remains as spacious and practical as ever, with loads of space throughout and the nifty electric folding seats helping to make this one of the best cars out there for big families. Under the bonnet, the Discovery gets a new host of engines with an array of JLR's latest 4 and 6 cylinders. The petrol range kicks off with the 2-litre P300 producing 296 bhp, while a bigger 3-litre motor rounds off the petrol options with 355 bhp, thanks to an electric supercharger and mild hybrid system. This is the fastest model on offer, hitting 62 mph from rest in 6.5 seconds. The diesel selection consists of a 3-litre 6-cylinder mild hybrid with either 247 or 296 bhp and a towing capacity of up to 3.5 tonnes. All models come with an 8-speed auto box and, naturally, 4-wheel drive. And that is where the Discovery aims to stand apart from its rivals. It comes with Land Rover's tried and tested Terrain Response 2 system that automatically optimises the car for whatever surface you happen to be driving on.
The Land Rover then is still a great choice, but with the brand's troubling reputation for unreliability, we can see why some buyers might look elsewhere. And for those that don't want a green oval, the Genesis is a great alternative.
After the break, a new market niche as Lexus reveals the LBX.
Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre. Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre.
Coming up, the new baby Lexus. But first,
when you think of a fast German estate car, it's likely the first that will come to mind are Audis and Mercedes. Big Autobahn missiles with outrageous performance and price tags to match. What you might not think of is a Volkswagen Golf. Well, this is the new Golf R Estate, a more practical version of Golf's latest all-wheel drive hot hatch. Following the same formula of previous versions, the new Golf R is like a GTI that's been hitting the gym. Power is up from 242 bhp in the GTI to 316, while the 0 to 62 time is down to 4.9 seconds, around 0.2 seconds off the hatchback version, courtesy of a turbocharged 2-litre motor. Top speed is a hugely impressive 168 miles per hour, but only if you pay the extra cash to get the limiter removed. Naturally, the chassis had some upgrades too, with stiffer adaptive dampers, a new progressive power steering system, bigger brakes and wider tyres. It's lower too, but it's not just the hardware that's been altered. The traction and stability control systems have also been tweaked, and there's a fancy new torque vectoring system that can split power between the front and rear axles, and even between the two rear wheels for maximum grip on even the slippiest of surfaces. To set it apart from the more traditional GTI, the Golf R does without the red trim and tartan seats, instead going for a contemporary look with a big rear spoiler, quad Akrapovic exhausts and a serious-looking diffuser. At the front, the changes are more subtle, with a slightly more aggressive body kit and a small but significant R badge in the grille. Inside, it is business as usual, with some R-branded sport seats and various bits of blue trim and stitching. Like all Mark 8 Golfs, the interior is not quite as upmarket as some of its rivals, but it does at least come with plenty of goodies, chief among which is the new drift mode, which, you guessed it, turns the grippy Golf into a power-sliding hooligan at the touch of a button.
However, the Golf R isn't the only compact fast estate car out there. This is the quirky yet capable Mini Clubman JCW, a 302 brake horsepower hooligan. That big lump of horsepower comes courtesy of its turbocharged 2-litre motor from BMW. It'll hit 62 from rest in 4.9 seconds, the same as the Golf, and top out at 155. This is one very quick Mini. Sadly, the JCW isn't quite as practical as the VW. As with any Clubman, the cabin space is disappointingly average. While it may wear a Mini badge, this is far from being a truly small car. As a result, the cramped rear seats and underwhelming boot may come as a surprise. The weird rear doors in place of a hatch are a pain too, needing lots of clearance behind you to open fully, making loading and unloading a chore. The resulting split rear window also reduces visibility.
As charming as the Mini is though, we would take the Golf. Get it in grey, black or silver and it becomes the perfect stealth performance car. It flies under the radar and with your whole family's luggage in the boot.
With Mercedes now on its way to the front of the EV race, its EQ lineup is getting bigger and bigger. With electric cars beginning to fill almost all of MERC's niche body styles, this new EQE SUV seemed like a solid mainstream offering. Not to be confused with the regular EQE, a 4-door saloon acting as an electric alternative to the E-Class, the EQE SUV is, who'd have guessed it, an SUV. Sitting below the EQS SUV, the EQE looks like a scaled-down version of its big brother. In fact, without looking at the badges, you do well to tell them apart. The EQE is smaller though, and it remains a good-looking car in its own right. The design is familiar and in keeping with all of Mercedes' EQ models, but there are some interesting details like the silver running boards. Not only are they handy for getting in and out of the car, but they also improve the aerodynamics. The AMG 53 model, meanwhile, gets a special grille panel inspired by the Panamericana grilles of its ICE stablemates. It's on the inside, though, where the EQE really impresses. There's no real dashboard to speak of, instead just a huge panel of screens called the Hyperscreen. The 56-inch panel comprises 3 separate screens in all, each with its own functionality, but it's not just the Hyperscreen that takes your breath away. The rest of the interior is just as fancy, with beautiful materials and the signature turbine air vents. Powering the SUV is the same selection of dual-motor powertrains you get in the saloon, ranging from 288 to 402 brake horsepower. Maximum range is 340 miles if spec'd correctly, which could lure buyers away from the aging but still impressive Tesla Model X. Best of all, though, is that there's going to be a really fast version. AMG has released some performance figures for its first ever electric SUV. As standard, the EQE 53 will come with 617 brake horsepower, but spec the optional Dynamic Plus pack and the figure creeps up to 678. 0 to 62 will take just 3.5 seconds onto a top speed of 149. As well as the extra oomph, the AMG 53 also gets improved brakes, adjustable damping, and a host of styling tweaks both inside and out. The seats, steering wheel and pedals are all AMG specific, and even the graphics on the infotainment have been adjusted. The order books have just been opened, and unsurprisingly it's not cheap. Prices start at just over 90 grand, 15 more than the saloon on which it's based. Us, we'd save the cash, but time will tell which EQE is best.
Toyota's luxury offshoot Lexus built its reputation for quality and durability, making big saloon cars and posh SUVs. But now, with the brand looking to increase its market, it's expanding its lineup with its smallest car yet. It's called the LBX, a compact SUV designed specifically for Europe. It shares its platform with the Toyota Yaris Cross, but this is an altogether more premium offering and carving a niche for small luxury cars as yet untapped by BMW or Mercedes. Their smallest SUVs are the X1 and GLA respectively, both a class up from the LBX. With an expected starting price of around £30,000 and with nothing but Volkswagen's Peugeots and the DS3 in its way, could Lexus be onto something here? Well, it certainly looks different to the brand's other models. Not only is it smaller, but it features a new design ditching the gaping front grille in favour of a softer look with a subtler grille and slim headlights. There are short overhangs front and rear to reduce its overall footprint and give it a sporty stance, while at the back the traditional L badge has made way for a de rigueur Lexus script. Inside the cabin, it is immediately clear that the LBX is a big step up from a humble Yaris Cross. It's full of interesting shapes and creases, and the gorgeous 9.8-inch infotainment screen slopes down, blending in with the center console much more neatly than a vertical screen clumsily plonked on top of the dash, as we still see in so many cars. It's fitted as standard with voice control, which acts a lot like Alexa or Siri. You say, "Hey Lexus," and ask it to do the various basic requests. For tech lovers, there are plenty of gadgets and gizmos on the options list, including a so-called digital key, which allows you to lock and unlock the car using your phone. Boot space is not the best at 332 litres, but the passenger space is excellent, thanks to the LBX being a bit wider than most others in this class. Powering the little Lexus is a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine paired with a small battery and electric motor for short-distance electric driving. Performance figures are yet to be released, but with a total power output of 134 bhp, we don't expect it to be especially rapid. Base spec cars will be front-wheel drive, while all-wheel drive will be offered further up the price list with an extra electric motor on the rear axle. You'll be able to reserve an LBX as soon as this month, but order books officially open in October, with the first deliveries expected at the start of 2024.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we check out Honda's latest hybrid, the all-new ZR-V.
Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre.